But helping Scott go through this demanding physical transformation is Dr. Neil McFarlane of Glasgow University's Biomedical and Life Sciences faculty. I filmed the crucial series of tests and checkups Scott has to go through to assess if his body can still take the strain.
Scott, to lose weight, has to train 2 or 3 times a day, but there's no point in him training so hard 2 or 3 times a day that he's killing himself. We want to try and do the minimum he can to lose weight.
What Scott wants to hear is that he can still be as fit at 30 as he was at 25.
There's no reason why you can't be as fit as you were. There's no reason...
Or even fitter.
Or even fitter, that's what I was going to say.
It depends on your lifestyle as well, then. If you're living better, you're going to get fitter, aren't you?
And you're going to live better, aren't you?
Live better.
Do these things. The weight you're at just now, the hydration levels you're at just now, super featherweight should be no problem to you.
The check-up with Dr. McFarlane is also an opportunity to test Scott's punching power and a chance for me to get an idea of what it would be like to be hit by this man.
As I said earlier, so what we've got here is just a voltage output from the accelerometer. We're getting near to about 4 volts just coming with the left hand. Now that doesn't mean anything, 4 volts, what does that really mean? And roughly we're talking about 4 15-stone men jumping on your chin. Quite a lot of force, and that's left hand. That's him not really trying very hard.
Scott can clearly still hit, and hit hard. But with just 7 weeks to go to his first warm-up fight, and still a lot of work needed to get his fitness, speed and weight where they need to be, he's going to have to move things up a gear. And this means a trip to his favourite training ground up in the Scottish Highlands.
No, you either want to be a professional fighter and be the best fighter that you can be, or you want to just play at it. What you're doing is just, you're training basically all day. You're getting your head down about 11 o'clock at night, and you're just waking up the next morning and going back to training again. So you're basically, for the next 2 months, you've got to live like a monk to be a champion.
I've been filming with Scott for a month now, and I don't know whether it's because he's more comfortable with the camera or just getting out of Glasgow, but Scott is becoming more relaxed and open with me. For the first time, I'm beginning to see behind the PR front that Scott and his dad have been careful to maintain.
Scott actually thinks it's we elves that come in during the middle of the night and clean all the dishes. I mean, it's like that I don't know the fairy tale, it was about the cobbler, how all the shoes used to be mended in the middle of the night, and this guy just thought that they're mended with magic. Scott thinks the same with dishes.
End of the day, I'm not a cleaner, so I leave it up to the cleaner's job, you know what I mean? Whoever the cleaner may be, I'm not saying my dad's a cleaner or anything like that, no. I'm saying the cleaner, whoever it may be, I don't know. I've got to train, I've not got time to do the cleaning and things like that. You're laughing at. In boxing, you've got your structure. So for the past 2 years, I've known my structure. And basically, well, just come to terms how we deal with life if you don't get your boxing. I found that hard to do. I was basically on my own, you know, having to basically get back in the real world. Basically, I found that hard, to be honest with you, not being world champion.
So yeah, Scott, that's fast. Good man.
3 times world champion.
That's it.
Nearly world champion of the planet, it's going to be running hills like that.
That's it.
Not in Scotland.
That's it.
Although what I've seen so far makes me believe that Scott really can become a world champion again, at the back of my mind is the fact that he still hasn't heard anything about his boxing licence and that there's no warm-up fight actually arranged. But Scott and his dad are going through the motions of a pre-fight schedule, as if all this will fall into place.
Once you start something, you've got to finish it. You know, it's a case of, he's always been like that, even when he was young at school. Like he was just the same. He get into trouble with a lot of teachers in school because his way was always the best way.
Scott's self-belief has made him the greatest boxer to ever come out of Scotland. and I want to know more about his career as a world champion. As he recalls the glories of the past, he suddenly comes alive, and I glimpse the true champion that Scott Harrison once was. Between 2002 and 2004, Scott defended, lost and then regained his title in spectacular fashion.
There is Medina.
If you watch the fight again, I'm practically running in the middle of the ring.
In winning a world title twice, Scott achieved something that no Scottish boxer had done before or since.
I felt invincible. I didn't think anybody in the planet could beat me.
And he's made history, the first Scot ever to regain a world championship.
Scott Harrison fought 11 world title contests in 3 years, breaking the Scottish record for successful defences. Listening to him talk about all these fights makes me realise that the more he fought, the more the effort started to take its toll.
So you need to look at it this way, right? So I'll be training for a fight for maybe 2 months, 8 to 9 weeks, right? So once you get there, you train 3 times a day, you know, really punish your body. Once you get there and all the crowds there, and all the fans and all that, and you've already done all the press coverage and all that, you get to the fight, you win the fight, you put on a brilliant performance, you know what I mean? Then maybe 3 years later, I can feel shite basically.
Do you think you took being world champion for granted?
I think after a while I did. To be honest with you, I think I did take it for granted. I think it's only when you're no world champion you say to yourself, oh, what was it like when I was world champion? You know, I think I did take it for granted, to be honest with you.
The one fight that Scott avoids describing to me is his 9th World Championship contest in January 2005 that ended in a contentious draw. He was booed by the crowd and the sporting press started to turn on him. At the same time, stories began to emerge that Scott was drinking heavily and getting involved in violent confrontations outside the ring. He seemed to me like a professional fighter who was beginning to lose the self-control and discipline that had made him a champion.
I'd walk into a pub, all the eyes are on me, see what I'm going to do. At the end of the day as well, I mean, I didn't make it any easier for myself, you know. Maybe going up to different pubs or maybe drinking, maybe getting to jail.
In May 2006, Scott was charged with resisting arrest in a bar and assaulting a policeman. Shortly after, he pulled out of a scheduled title defence fight and booked himself into the Priory Clinic for alcohol-related problems.
I had to get into the Priory just to try and get my act together, but I went from one Priory to another Priory. I went in London as well. I was in rehab in London, went to Ireland. So in the space of a couple of years, I've been in about 3 different rehabs. For my dad to see me when I was 15, 16, fighting for, had my first amateur fight, and saying, aye son, you hopefully will get to the Olympics one day, to fighting for your first and second world title, and defending it 10 times. Then getting off the rails, must have been an absolute nightmare because my father being my father, and being my trainer as well. It's twice as hard for him. I'll tell you one thing, see who's going to be there through thick and thin. It's going to be your family. Your family will always be there. Right or wrong what you do, they'll always be there.
It's nearly halfway through Scott's training schedule, and I'm beginning to see how badly he needs to make this work. But there is still no mention of his boxing licence, and I press him again about news from the boxing board.
Just look, mate, we see it coming.
The response I get comes as a complete surprise. Scott reveals that he has a pending court case for a breach of the peace, resisting arrest and police assault charge dating back to May 2006. The boxing board has taken the view that until this case is resolved, Scott will not be allowed to step into a professional boxing ring. Despite having never mentioned this before, Scott assures me that everything will be okay.